Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, I want to talk about 3 companies that I've been keeping my eye on as potential investments. All 3 of these companies, I believe, have a very strong position in their market and will be around for decades to come. So here it is. The 3 companies are Costco, CoStar Group, and Illumina. Most, if not all of you, definitely know what Costco is, but might not be as familiar with CoStar or Illumina. I'll quickly walk through why I like these companies and what I've been looking for before making any investments. So let's kick it off first with Costco. If you don't know what Costco is, they are a big box discount retailer. They primarily make their profits from selling membership cards, giving individuals access to their warehouses, where you can actually then go buy bulk volumes of household items for a price slightly higher than cost. I think I've read they add a 5% markup to their products. So this is definitely not driving the profit, but it is a big driver of top line revenue. I do really like Costco. I think leadership is great. Their CEO actually started out working on the warehouse floor and has, climbed through the ranks. They're known for paying their workers well. They keep costs very low for the consumer. And I think it's a sticky shopping experience. You go to get one item and leave with a cart full of things you didn't really need, but are actually pretty happy to have. They have almost a cultish following in the US with a lot of memes on social media. And they're generally just a well-received company. I really do love everything about Costco, except for the share price. I've been watching the stock since it was around $500 about a year ago, and it has never actually pulled back. I keep telling myself as soon as it pulls back, I'll enter. Today it's trading around $850. If it ever pulls back around to around $600 a share, I'd probably actually enter a position. It might still be overvalued at that price from a traditional DCF perspective, but I've been focused more on buying companies that I really love the business model around, as opposed to necessarily it just being cheap. So now let's move over to my next company. Let's talk about CoStar. You may or may not have heard about them, but if you are in the US, you've definitely seen their ads on TV. They have the series of ads featuring Jeff Goldblum talking to aliens about finding apartments. They have one with Dan Levy talking about taking over the family company, expanding into home sales. There's other various versions with Lil Wayne and some other celebrities. They're the parent company behind apartments.com and homes.com. But what I really like about them is not their expansion into these more consumer-facing markets, but their legacy product, CoStar. You need to understand a little bit about searching for properties first to really understand what makes CoStar special. If you've ever searched for a home to buy, you go on Zillow or maybe even homes.com. Both of these websites are powered by the multiple listing service, which is a database that is where your realtor will put your home in when it's for sale. That then feeds into numerous external sites that are easier to navigate for the everyday consumer. On the homes.com portion of the business, I don't think there's a big moat. Anyone can pay for access to the data and populate their own website for consumers to browse. That's how you end up with sites like Trulia, Redfin, Zillow, homes.com, etc. But on the commercial real estate side, there is no MLS. You hire a broker, they put your property or space on their website, throw a sign out front that says it's for lease or for sale. It's not aggregated into anywhere central. That was until CoStar came along in the late 80s. They built this database and captured every piece of data they could, from sales, rent comps, building sizes, photos, floor plans, etc. Today, they employ thousands of individuals who oversee different markets. Their jobs are to call local brokers and get all the details they can to populate their database. They have the only true database of information for commercial real estate, in my opinion. There have been companies that pop up from time to time to work as a more of an active marketplace for listings like LoopNet, but CoStar actually acquired LoopNet back in 2012. The only place to find historical sales data is CoStar or your local records department. For rent comps, it's tough. CoStar is probably the only company that has historical rent prices for decades. They have an essential monopoly on the commercial real estate information space. It's sort of like the Bloomberg terminal for commercial real estate. Now let's move why I haven't entered a position. They've been making an aggressive push into the more consumer-facing businesses like apartments.com and homes.com, which I believe has a lot more competition. They recently announced the acquisition of Matterport, which makes 3D mappings of spaces. I think this makes sense for their lines of businesses, but shows a continued focus on the more consumer-facing spaces. I want to see how this consumer-facing piece plays out before making an investment. I haven't run a formal valuation on CoStar, but I do love the business, just not the price. It currently trades around a PE of 106, so it's definitely on the pricier sides, and it seems like investors are assuming that these aggressive investments in the consumer-focused areas will pay off. So now on to my last company. I've been keeping an eye on Illumina. If you're not familiar with them, They developed the technology behind DNA sequencing. I have a weird relationship with this company. I've entered and exited positions a ton of times in my smaller fun accounts. Back during the huge surge in at-home DNA testing, I had a position. It did very well. Illumina powered a lot of the technology that enabled the 23andMe's and Ancestries of the world during that time. They also have much more complex sequencing technologies for full genome sequencing. I've actually had my full genome sequenced by them and have a really weird love for this space and technology. I think the technology will revolutionize medicine in the future. My big concern is when in the future, and can current leadership actually get them there? They have had some really great innovations historically. They developed GRAIL, which is a blood test for early cancer screening. They actually spun it out at one point, bought it back without regulatory approvals just to divest it again in late 2023 when the regulatory folks denied it. A little before this, they tried to acquire one of their largest competitors in PacBio. That was denied by regulators as well. So leadership has had a pretty poor track record in finding appropriate acquisitions and running the business, in my opinion. They've sort of been stumbling around. Their previous CEO, Francis D'Souza, actually stepped down late last year and was replaced by an industry veteran, Jacob Thaysen. However, now Carl Icahn has renewed his proxy fight that's been going on for a while with Illumina. I don't really enjoy taking positions in companies with active proxy fights. It tends to cause a lot of noise and distract the efforts of management where they could be better spent running the business. I really want to see new leadership come in and for things to stabilize without big disruptions. And once some of the turmoil from the previous leadership in the Carl Icahn proxy fight kind of settle, I'll definitely take a closer look at the financials and refresh my model to see if maybe entering the position is appropriate. So there it is. Those are the three companies I've been keeping an eye on as of late for potentially making an investment. They're in three very different industries, but I feel all are actually very good companies with pretty large moats in their respective spaces. As always, thanks so much for watching. Please comment below any companies you've been keeping an eye on, and maybe I can take a look at those as well. Thanks.